The terrifying true story behind The Good Nurse. The 2013 true crime book of the same name by Charles Graham served as the inspiration for the upcoming Netflix original movie, The Good Nurse. The book relates the tale of a serial killer, Charles Cullen, who is thought to have killed close to 400 people over the course of his 16-year nursing career. Although Eddie Redmayne's Charles Cullen, played by Jessica Chastain, is the topic of intrigue as a figure wrapped in mystery from the start, Amy Lowen's journey receives a great amount of director Tobias Lindholm's attention. Do you think this is just another horror movie like the rest? Well, you'd be wrong. This is actually based on a true story. The terrifying true story behind The Good Nurse. Make sure to like and subscribe to Mystery Facts Rewind because this is the #1 place for all of your mysteries. So, let's get into it. The Eddie Redmayne Jessica Chastain film The Good Nurse is based on the true story of serial killer Charles Cullen, who is the subject of the documentary Capturing the Killer Nurse. In what has evolved into a successful system of true crime cross-promotion. Watch the drama, then the documentary that, with its abundance of stage sequences and whooshing thriller soundtracks, is meant to feel like a drama. Both movies are being released by Netflix. The Cullen saga may be the first instance of a serial killer who was made possible by business wrongdoing, as both versions of the story make clear. Cullen, a nerd with a porn star mustache and a smug grin who worked for 16 years as a respected nurse in the Northeast, gave many patients hospital medications, primarily the heart failure drug digoxin, to kill them invisibly. When he was apprehended in December 2003, he admitted to killing 29 individuals, whilst many believe that number to be closer to 400. Given that he worked in 9 different hospitals, hopping from one to the next, and that his history of criminal activity dates back to the early 1990s, it is possible that there were many more victims than the official count. In the Cullen case, the crucial question is, how did he get away with it for so long? Naturally, this is a crucial topic in almost every serial killer case, but the response in this instance is more complex than simply, he was covert and cunningly cunning and portrayed a normal facade to the outside world. All of that is accurate, but Charles Cullen wasn't really all that smart. If you work in medicine and murder someone in a hospital by giving them medications that weren't prescribed for them and measuring a degree of toxicity in their systems after they pass away, you're essentially giving the police a roadmap to find you. Although Amy initially buys into Charles Cullen's portrayal of a sincere and kind nurse, she eventually comes to see the genial exterior hides a terrifying wickedness. The Good Nurse picks up Charles Cullen's story from the beginning to the end, rather than concentrating on his early atrocities. Although Charles Cullen had a long history of losing his job at hospitals, his downfall actually started when his co-worker and close friend Amy Lowen began to accuse him of being responsible for the sudden increase in unexpected deaths. The events that take place after Charles Cullen enters Somerset Hospital in New Jersey, where he meets Amy, are depicted in The Good Nurse. Was Amy Lowen a real person? Charles Cullen and Amy Lowen shared a workplace, Somerset Hospital, which was renamed Parkfield Memorial Hospital for the film. Amy Lowen had cardiomyopathy. This is a challenging heart condition that makes it challenging for the heart to pump blood to the body's other organs, and she lived with her 2 daughters. As seen in the movie, Amy struggled to deal with the stress of her job because she had to put in so long hours. When Charles discovered Amy struggling to breathe one day and offered to help until she had the health insurance, their friendship quickly blossomed. These incidents actually happened the way that the movie depicted them. Charles later aided Amy by employing a hack to steal medications from the Pyxis med station in order to keep the promise he made that evening. Amy's inquiry was greatly aided by Charles's knowledge of how to hack the med station because she was aware it was feasible to remove medications without leaving a clear trail. Amy and Charles are depicted as having a close relationship during their time working together in The Good Nurse. Although a love undercurrent isn't fully developed, Charles was able to forge a friendship with Amy, giving her the confidence to introduce him to her daughters. Before Amy learned the truth about otherwise devoted Dr. Charles Cullen, he had also grown to be close friends in real life. Amy Lowen has acknowledged being good friends with Charles Cullen, who served as a confidant for her on her official website. She said that before she learned the truth about the man, she confided in him and loved him. How did Amy find out about Charles Cullen's crimes then? Although Lindholm's movies keep its attention on Amy's perspective, it differs slightly from the way Amy learned about Charles Cullen's crimes in the real world. Amy was initially convinced that Charles was to blame for the unexplained deaths that occurred in The Good Nurse, before she eventually came around. It's shown in the movie that Amy opted to swear by Charles's innocence when she was first questioned by Detective Tim Braun and Danny Baldwin about the killing of Mrs. Martinez, a 77-year-old woman who was apparently Charles's first victim at Parkfield. According to the movie, Amy didn't find the tiniest piece of proof supporting Charles's misdeeds until much later. In actuality, when Amy glanced through Charles's charts, she grew skeptical of her colleague's conduct, according to Graeber's book. The charts were riddled with typos and incorrect observations. The fact that Charles spent a lot of time looking at records of patients being cared for by other nurses was more significant than the system via which Amy accessed Charles's information. Amy discovered a clear piece of evidence. Charles occasionally ordered an uncommon medicine combination. The list of medications that Amy saw included medications provided to cardiac unit patients, which was uncommon given that Charles Cullen worked in intensive care unit. How did the police come to arrest Charles Cullen? Well, in the movie, Amy assists the investigators by donning a wire to capture Charles Cullen's confession in the event that she is successful in seducing him. With Amy's assistance, the police hope to deepen their inquiry and link Charles Cullen to his atrocities. The next scene finds Amy and Charles meeting in a neighborhood diner, where Amy persistently tries to pry information from the skilled killer. As Amy anxiously tries to get Charles to admit to his horrible deeds, Lindholm's strategy shifts to a more emotionally confrontational one. Charles is portrayed in the movie thwarting Amy's attempts, although he does it against a lot of resistance and after going through a lot of internal agony. Charles Cullen appears to be on the verge of giving up, but ultimately decides against it. The truth, however, is much different, as Amy Lowen stated in an interview with Newsweek that Charles Cullen was far more cool and peaceful during these events shown in the diner scene. Although Charles did not confess to his misdeeds in either the film or the real world, he did so in the latter with much less difficulty than the difficult struggle he is depicting facing in the former. The subsequent events are fairly accurate, as shown in the movie. Soon after the encounter at the diner, Charles Cullen is taken into custody by the police. Amy visits her former co-worker in jail, where he confesses his crimes to her. The Good Nurse ends Amy's tale by revealing that she had heart surgery and now resides in Florida. Despite Charles's detention, their relationship continued, as Amy visited him frequently and even wrote him a few letters throughout the course of the trial. Cullen's patients' deaths were mysteries. The hospitals he worked for noticed the warning signs right away. The acclaimed 2013 investigative book, The Good Nurse, on which the documentary is based, was written by Charles Graeber, who is also one of the producers. Graeber claims that Cullen's predatory behavior presented a challenge for the corporate health organizations that he worked for. If a hospital acknowledged what he had done, it might be held accountable and suffer catastrophic financial loss. A hospital's reputation isn't exactly enhanced by having an infamous killer on staff, aside from the astronomical payouts it may be required to make the relatives of the victims. Charles Cullen, sometimes known as the Angel of Death, is currently incarcerated in the New Jersey State Prison on 18 consecutive life sentences. And he won't be eligible for parole until 2403, as noted as the conclusion of the movie. Amy is pursuing a career as a Reiki master and meditation teacher, and currently resides in Florida with her children and grandchildren. Although Lindholm's film stays extremely close to reality, it does take a few artistic licenses in order to make the intended parts of the story stand out as clearly as possible. Although the severity of his crimes is still a subject of discussion among specialists, The Good Nurse gives a generally accurate account of the circumstances that resulted in the capture of one of America's most notorious serial killers. But with that, we come to the end of today's video. Tell us your thoughts about this in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, well, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up button, and tap that bell icon for more interesting content. Thank you very much for joining, and we will see you in the next video.